So I spent hours going through Alex Hormozi's content with one specific goal: find everything he said that applies directly to software dev agencies, and what I found completely reframed how I think about marketing for dev shops. Because when you're working with software dev clients every single day, you start to see exactly why some are absolutely crushing it and while others are stuck in the same feast and famine cycles year after year. In this video, I'm breaking down Hormozi's best marketing insights for software dev shops and showing you how we've put them into practice for multiple clients. So let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into the advice that Alex Hormozi gives on software dev agencies, I want to talk a little bit about the biggest challenges that most software dev agencies are facing. And that is they can sell just about everything under the sun. And the issue with that is that when you have multiple services that you can sell, your marketing message becomes diluted. And you can't just sell custom software solutions because no one wakes up one day thinking, hey, I want some custom software solutions in my business. People don't even know what that means. You can't just go out to market saying, hey, we can do all these different things, because you're going to reach no one with that message. And so the issue, like I mentioned, is that most custom software dev shops, they can do AI development. They can do MVP development, right? They can also do integrations. They can do all this different custom work, but you can't go out to market and say, hey, I can do all these different things, because you're going to resonate with no one. And that's probably why, if you've tried that in the past, it hasn't worked. Now, what does Hormozi talk about, and how does he actually go about solving this problem? Well, he builds out what he calls a front-end offer. And offer, being one of the most important parts of what it is that you build, needs to have a different couple of components. It needs to be specific for a specific audience. It needs to be outcome focused. It also needs to have a time frame that's attached to it, and it needs to have some form of risk reversal. Now, when you have all these different elements of an offer, it's going to really cut through the noise and allow you to start booking more calls and closing more deals. Now, there's two ways that you can really build out an offer for your custom dev shop that I've personally seen work and that Alex Hormozi also talks about. The first way is productizing your service. So you have to productize one of your service offerings, whether that is the AI dev, the MVP dev, the integrations, the custom AI workflows, or the automation workflows. You have to essentially take one of those core service offerings that you do and turn that into some form of a product. Not necessarily like an actual product, but you have to sell it and market it as a product. So you build out an offer right here for one of those automations, and you do it for a specific target market. So what you could say is, hey, we help SaaS companies that are recently funded build an MVP in less than 30 days. And if you're not satisfied with the finished product, we keep tweaking it for free until we get it done, right? Essentially something like that. But, has each of these different components. Or you can say, healthcare companies, we help you with your EHR integration within 30 days so you can start winning hospital contracts. And you can also add some form of risk reversal to it as well. But you get the point, right? You want to take a specific service that you do and you want to market that specific thing and then sell more of that thing, because that's ultimately what's going to allow you to, first of all, scale your service delivery and also not have to have this diluted message on all these different things that you do. So you want to find that productized service. Now, there's a second way to do this, which is a little bit easier on the front end, but still you obviously run into the problem where you're going to have to do multiple different types of services on the back end, which for a lot of software dev shops that we talk to is completely fine. So the second way that you can do this is leading with a diagnostic sale. And what this is instead of going out and saying, hey, we sell this one thing to you, and here's how we can help you, and you're going to attract only those people that want that one specific thing, you can instead lead with what's called a diagnostic sale, where you try to figure out what actual problems they have and how you can sell them one of your different offerings that might be able to help them. So a really good way to do this is through different educational workshops, audits, assessments, essentially anything that you can do where you're going inside of the business and you're figuring out what is the best use case for your services and how you can help them. And so what you want to do is make sure that you frame this as super valuable. So one of Alex Hormozi's key principles is leading with value, right? If you lead with value in whatever you do, it's going to be way easier for you to ultimately get a sale. And so a lot of software dev shops I talk to, they, want to do like a paid discovery, right? They'll go in and they'll do like a paid discovery. They charge 15 to 20K. And while that can work, right? Especially with warm traffic, traffic and referrals, we're talking about selling to cold traffic, right? A lot of times you're not going to want to get people that want to pay $25,000 for a paid discovery where you can tell them all the problems that they have. Why not do the exact same thing that you do for a paid discovery and do that completely free? So the thing that you're going to see, and I talk to a lot of founders that sometimes will not want to give away stuff for free, but the issue is you're paying for that one way or the other. And so what I mean by that is most people don't account what their customer acquisition cost is going to look like. So when you lead with something free, yes, you are giving away work for free. You're doing something in terms of hours that you're dedicating to a certain project. However, when you think about if you don't add that thing in for free, you're now having to spend way more on ads to get a booked call. You're also having to send way more outreach messages to get a booked call. So you're having to spend way more time and energy to get someone on a paid call, where if you marketed something for free, you could obviously get them on that meeting way easier. And then your overall customer acquisition cost is actually lowered. So a lot of people think that, oh, I don't want to do free because a lot of those free things aren't going to actually turn into, paid deals. Yes, that may be true. But in the overall sense of things, when you offer something for free and you lead with value, you are going to attract more people into your ecosystem and you will start to close more deals 100%. So that's why it's important to lead with value. And you don't just do a traditional 30-minute consult or a traditional audit. You actually want to provide value to these folks, because if you do that, it will be way easier to convert on the back end and you get way more people into your ecosystem. Hey, real quick, if you're a software dev shop that's relying on referrals and wants a predictable system to get clients consistently and you want it all built for you, there's a link below to book a call. We guarantee to get your ads profitable, or we actually give you a full refund. So other than that, let's get back to the video. So that's one thing I can leave with you. You want to make sure that when you're selling to cold traffic, you have something that you can lead with value, because that is Alex Hormozi's key principle. If you read any of his books, offers, if you read leads, he talks about that. If you want to get more people inside of your ecosystem, give away something for free. So now that we know that we have 2 offers that we want to create, now it's about just getting these offers in front of more people. So we have to use certain distribution channels so that we can basically market this offer and get it in front of more people. The issue with a lot of people, and especially software dev agencies, is they just aren't speaking to enough people. They're getting into enough conversations. And so you have to do more volume in every single different channel, right? There's 4 ways to grow your business at the end of the day. Outbound, there's paid media, there's content, and then there is partnerships and affiliates, right? So these are the 4 ways that you can ultimately grow. Now, my favorite way and the quickest, and I believe also the best way to grow for software dev agencies, is going to be paid media. Because when you can figure out your cost per lead, your cost per call, and your close rate, and you have a good productized offer, and you've built one of these things, right? You either have a productized service or you lead with value. It's a lot easier to scale, right? You just say, hey, I want to book 30 meetings. Okay, well, what's 30 times 300? That's 9,000. I have to spend $9,000 to book 30 meetings. Now you could do that with outbound, just a little bit harder because it's a lot more manual, and then you have to train a team for it. And, typically it's just a lot harder for you to stand out in today's market. You totally can, though. It does work. I'm not saying it doesn't. There's a lot more uplift that comes in. Now, the CAC, like your customer acquisition cost, will always be cheaper on outbound, but paid media will always be more expensive, but it's way easier to scale. That's the pro of it. Content, it's something that you should be doing, but it takes a while. It's 6 to 12 months for you to ever see leads coming from it. It's not immediate, and it's not something that's easy to just increase the volume and you get more leads. And then partnerships and affiliates, those are great. Referrals, partnerships, whatever you want to call them, those are great. Even channel partners, but again, none of that is really consistent. So the really only 2 channels that you can actually gain predictability from and consistency are outbound and paid media. And so I recommend paid media, and you want to build all of your campaigns, everything that you're doing from either outbound, paid media, content, partnership, is you always want to have this productized service offering in these, or you want to lead with a diagnostic piece, right? So you don't have to necessarily stop offering all these different solutions. So the best way to do any of these types of channels is to always lead with these offers, right? Because the offer is everything. If you nail the offer, you nail the service, you nail your target market, it's gonna be way easier to get your foot into the door to sell people. So make sure you put a big emphasis on that, and you're gonna see a big ROI that comes in the back end of it. All right, so to quickly recap, the biggest mistake most software dev shops make is trying to market everything that they can do instead of picking one front-end offer that's easy to say yes to. So lead with something specific that has immense value. And if you always remember that if you lead with value, you're always gonna get way more back to you. So if you want a team to help you put this system in place for you, there's a link below to book a call with me. Other than that, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Ciao.